Welcome to the Skies Over Colorado for March 2022. I'm staff astronomer John Ensworth from the Cherrywood Observatory, volunteer at the Little Thompson Observatory for Longmont Public Media. In the news this month, well, it's going to be the James Webb Space Telescope again, because lots of great things are going to come from this thing, and it's working nicely. Maybe when something goes wrong, the news stories will stop, but then that would be a news story itself. So the 7-step process to align the segments into one mirror is now halfway complete. January 19th, it began to coax all the segments into line to try to get them pointing into one spot. February 12th, all were directed unfocused starlight into the near-infrared camera. So that's a great, successful step. Next, the star images were focused and stacked one atop each other. Not super precisely, but good enough to show that they have plenty of room for improvement. And then fine-tuning segments to optimally work with all 4 scientific instruments is expected to take until late spring, so maybe 3 months from now, 4 months from now. And the first images are expected early summer, and we will cover that here. The Large Hadron Collider is in the news. You may ask, why are we talking about something that smashes subatomic particles together? That's because we think that the large-scale structure of the universe is an imprint left behind by the smallest subatomic processes going on in the Big Bang. So what's really tiny really matters on the biggest scale, but also everything we talk about and look at in telescopes is also made up of these things. So we just want to look for any dangling loose ends in our understanding of physics. So the Large Hadron Collider at CERN near Geneva, Switzerland, has been shut down for the last 3 years, and Run 3 now begins, and they've done major upgrades to boost the power and capabilities of the instrument. They're looking at further refining understanding of the Higgs boson, which we should talk about some future Astro 101. They want to explore the nature of dark matter that we still don't understand, and we should probably get into that too. They're basically testing what's called the Standard Model, which describes the fundamental forces in elementary particles that make up the universe. We want to understand it all. Our next story is kind of a story and kind of just a PSA that coming up in just 2 years and a touch more time will be a really good total solar eclipse crossing the United States. I think the entire country, 98% will see some bite out of the sun, so it's a pretty good one here. This is going to be a better, longer totality than what we saw August 21st, 2017. The date for this one will be April 8th, 2024. So yep, you have just about 2 years left to make your plans. Get vacation off, find a hotel. Some hotels will take reservations a year or 2 out, especially for something like this. Maybe even get reservations for a couple hotels, because there were some pretty bad stories of hotels realizing they could make more money and losing reservations last time and rebooking for a lot higher. So do explain fully that you're doing this for the eclipse. That's why you want that hotel room at that time. So the maximum possible totality length, if you're in the middle path of the shadow and between the 2 ends of the shadow, is 7 minutes and 29 seconds. Back in 2017, the best you could do was 2 minutes and 35 seconds in the middle of the United States somewhere. In this one, in April 2024, the best you'll get is 4 minutes 28 seconds, and that's down in Mexico. So this is a better eclipse. It's going to be a deeper, darker eclipse. The skies will darken more than you saw last time. Some major cities include Little Rock and Dayton, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and Montreal. The path is like this. It comes in from the South Pacific onto the southwest Mexican coast, across much of Mexico, entering the Big Bend area of Texas. I think that's correct to call that. And then up across, there's Austin and Dallas in there, and up into the northern part of New England. Big star parties. I'm going to have to just do more deeper research on the internet, or maybe people are just still taking a break because of all that's happened over the last couple of years, but I'm just not finding much. The Oz Sky Star Safari in Australia is the end of March. In April, the Texas Star Party, famous, massive one in Fort Davis, Texas, is occurring. But if you know of additional sources I could search, please send that to my email address that I'll be showing at the end of the video. Your Astro 101 for this month is stellar spectral types. And basically, star colors come from their temperature. There's a few exceptions to that, but it's the surface temperature that we're talking about, where the photons leave the opaque part of the gas in the atmosphere of the star and leap off into space and get to travel at the speed of light. Sirius, we talked about last month, is a blue-white star. And Aldebaran, that we're going to talk about in a moment, is a very orange-red star. And if you look, you can see these differences, especially if the sky is nice and dark. You can also get a pair of binoculars and defocus them slightly, and then look at these two stars, and you'll see disks of color. Originally, stellar spectra were A, B, C, D, F, G historically, and then they discovered what made them different, and it made sense to reorganize those. And we don't throw anything away in astronomy, we keep all the history. So they kept the letters to that type of star, but put them in the correct order from hot to cool, and that's a relative thing. But it's OBA, FGKM. So up at the O part of the spectrum up here, blue-white, you're over 30,000 Kelvin. Kelvin is a absolute temperature scale, so you don't have degrees Kelvin. 0 is where molecular motion stops. Down to about 3,000 Kelvin for the red end. For reference, the Sun is a G-type star, and there's a mnemonic that helps you remember this, being "Obi, a fine girl or guy, kiss me." So G is kind of there. It used to be that the dim ones had R and S, and the mnemonic for that was, "Oh, brutal and ferocious gorilla, kill my roommate next Saturday." But now we've studied these things more, and we've come up with slightly different classifications for what's going on down there, so I'll have to make up something that includes LT. The sky above your backyard. Well, the moon starts new. We go through first quarter on March 10th, full on the 17th, third quarter on the 25th, and we're back to new on the 31st. If that was a full moon, you'd call that a new moon. And I should look it up to see if there is a term for the second new moon of the month. The dark moon, I don't know. Sounds creepy. In the Colorado sky, Neptune is too close to the sun to see, and Uranus is now low in the south, setting at about 11 o'clock. And there it is, kind of over here in the southwestern sky, and descending to its own setting. Around midnight, no planets up to see. We have the moon traveling through during the month. We have some Kuiper Belt objects out there, but nothing that's easily visible. Everybody's in the morning sky. So in the pre-dawn sky, Venus returns to rising about 2 hours before sunrise, Mars about 2 hours before sunrise, Saturn about an hour and a half before sunrise, Mercury and Jupiter about a half an hour before sunrise. That's going to be fun, and that's going to be the challenge for this month as well. So there's this cluster of planets. In 6 months, when this is over in the western sky, this is going to be quite a show. March 1st, we start with sunrises at 6:30 in the morning, and we back it up to, oh, that's supposed to be 7:45, I missed that one. Sorry about that. And we start sunsets at 5:52 and back up to 7:23 with 11, 12, and 12 and a half hours of daylight. So we do hit the beginning of spring on March 20th. And I did not put the time in there for that. Sorry about that. Too many things going on right now. The altitude of the sun at local noon is 43 degrees, 48 degrees on the 15th, and 55 degrees on March. If you follow my weather videos, you're going to see the normal highs and lows start to rise very quickly too. Our feature object for this month is we still see the winter constellations prominently up in the southern sky after sunset, so great time to still catch those. They're not gone yet. The Hyades, we've talked about the Pleiades, actually was the object of the very first of these videos, I'm going to move right down here to the southeast to the Hyades. It's closer to Orion than the Pleiades. It's the closest open cluster to Earth at only 153 light years. It's a V-shaped cluster of stars right in here, and it launches the bulls of Taurus the Bull, or the horns of Taurus the Bull, going this way and this way. The bright star Aldebaran that we talked about earlier is the angry red eye of Taurus. The bull's back is here, and his body is sort of imaginary down over here. So if you go to Orion, go to the belt and follow upward, it roughly points in the direction of the V of the Hyades. All these little, some of these stars in here, not all, are part of the Hyades cluster. Pretty large because it is so close to us. Your Colorado observing challenge this month is to do what you did last month, one day later in the month, is to look at another cluster of all these objects in the morning sky, and now Jupiter has joined them. Mercury's in there too. They didn't include it in their animation, but if you get out there maybe a little earlier, you'll catch Mercury before it starts to get lost in the glare. But yeah, looking all at the same time, you can see Saturn, Jupiter, Moon, Mars, Venus, and Mercury. That is amazing. So right there at the end of the month, best time to go out is 5:45, maybe 5:35 or 5:30 if you're going to try to catch Mercury. Astronomy events near Longmont. Things are opening up for a lot of places. I just can't tell what's happening with the Longmont Astronomical Society. Nothing is listed for March, and their star parties out under the sky itself doesn't have anything listed there either. So just check their site. Maybe they just haven't got things scheduled yet. Little Thompson Observatory is closed through March 31st. But keep checking the site. Looks like the decision is that after March 31st, if we can get enough volunteers, that we'll open to a limited capacity for scheduled groups. No news yet on public nights on a Friday. It's usually the third Friday. Estes Park Memorial Observatory. It's opening Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Still limiting to 12 people. Take a look at their site for guidelines, registration, and COVID-related requirements. Northern Colorado Astronomical Society via webcast, March 3rd. Speakers Dr. Robert Zellum. Exoplanets Finding Life in the Galaxy. Check out that for recordings if you miss it. Fisk Planetarium reopened in mid-March, and so they'll be at 50% capacity. They were 30% much of last year. That's about 100 seats, and masks are required. The observatory that they run is now open most Friday evenings from 8 to 10 p.m. Upcoming dates are March 4th and 11th, April 1st, 8th, 15th, and 22nd. And finally, we'll take a look at our historical missteps in astronomy in about 30 seconds. We'll look at the life of Fred Hoyle and his relationship to the Big Bang. He was born in 1915 and lived all the way to 2001. British astrophysicist, and became a lecturer at Cambridge in 1945. In 1953, he worked on how stars generate energy and predicted an isotope of carbon called carbon-12. But the thing that kind of marks a lot of his legacy is that he refused to believe the Big Bang model and even coined the term Big Bang to mock it in a 1950 radio broadcast. So basically it was, what do you think happened? Some Big Bang? And the term is there for ever since. I don't think he ever really gave up on that model or gave that model a really good shake. I mean to say, he did stop talking about steady state as his alternative in the 1960s when the cosmic microwave background radiation was detected. He did calculate with another scientist the possibility of the CMB in just the years right before that, but they didn't actually go out and look at it. He thought it would be about 3 degrees Kelvin. So it's interesting that he actually predicted a byproduct of the Big Bang, but then really wasn't ever comfortable with it. He went back to thinking something is seriously wrong with the Big Bang model when the acceleration of dark energy was discovered in '98. And if you're interested in more of his viewpoint on that, you can look at the book, The End of Science. And if you have any additions or corrections, contact me, John Ensworth, at gmail.com. This has been the Skies over Colorado for March 2022. Keep looking up.